Hello, this video is to give all the students that are at the European Study Center an intro to how Junior Lab MECE 351 Section O will be run this semester. This course is going to be team taught by Dr. Ruber and Dr. Barty, where Dr. Ruber is going to be handling on-site review of the labs and carrying out the experiments, and Dr. Barty will mainly be taking care of grading and the writing intensive portion of the class. So I'm going to go ahead and start going through how this class will be handled and an introduction to a course website that was developed in order to be able to handle content. Right now, my computer's, I'm doing a screen capture recording for this video. So right now I am in the course folder for the class. It's under MECE 351 Section 0. In the course folder, there's only 3 items. There's going to be an in folder in order for you to be able to hand in your assignments. This current version of the LoggerPro software that we use as our data acquisition software. There is a password in order to be able to load it on your computers. I will give you the password in an email. And then there's the course syllabus. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the course syllabus and go through the content of how the class works. I'm going to skip down to the schedule and readings. Basically, this class is comprised of 7 predetermined experiments and a design experiment. This class is also writing intensive. So the way the class works is that each week for the first 7 to 9 weeks of class, you will be running experiments that were already designed ahead of time by us in order for you to carry it out, and then you will hand in an experiment memo for each of those experiments. The first experiment will take place the week of September 5th through the 9th. You will complete experiment 1, which is an introduction to measurements, followed by experiment 2, ADD conversion, experiment 3, first order systems, experiment 4, frequency analysis, experiment 5, second order systems, 6, strain gauges, and 7, modal analysis. Now, for each of these experiments, you'll be required to hand in an experiment memo, which is basically a summary of your results, as well as a writing intensive exercise. This course, as you might know, is designated as writing intensive, so that means that there needs to be 1 experiment for which you hand in a technical report and you hand in 1 draft. It is graded, handed back, and then a second draft is done by you, and then that is also handed back in, and we grade that. At this point, the way that technical report is being handled is it's being handled as a manuscript that you are writing for publication in a technical journal. So, and when I say technical journal, I don't mean a journal like Popular Science. I'm talking about scholarly journals such as you may have heard of journals where scientists or engineers would publish data that has been discovered in order to be able to share those findings with the scientific community. Journals that I am involved in would be an example of the ASME Journal of Heat Transfer, another journal called Energy. There's also other journals like the ASME Journal of Fuel Cell Science, Thermal Engineering Applications, Vibrations, Journal of Food Science. There's hundreds of journals out there that span many different disciplines, and each discipline has their specific journals that are highly rated and where people look for research that's being published within their fields. So how that translates to what I'm doing is that the process and how journals accept papers for publication is that an author will write up a manuscript, which is basically their paper that they want to publish in a format specific to the journal. They send it to the journal. The journal editor takes it, reads it, makes sure that it is within the content, the subject matter span of the journal, and then the editor will send your manuscript to anywhere from 2, sometimes up to 4 reviewers. And the reviewers are other researchers in your field, and they're anonymous to you. They'll take some time, read through the paper, critique the work, send back a list of comments to the editor with a recommendation for publication. So it's usually accepted with minor changes to the manuscript, accepted with major changes, or just outright rejected. And then the editor takes some time to take all that into account, makes a decision, and sends the decision to the author. A lot of times it could be accepted with major or minor revisions, unless the paper itself was just not good work at all. So the author will receive all these listed comments and a notice from the editor saying, hey, we will accept this from you, we will accept this for publication if you make these changes. And so you as the author would need to go ahead and make changes to a second draft according to each comment that each reviewer made. And then on top of it, submit back the second draft with a whole list of changes indicating each change that you made to the second draft as compared to the first draft and how they relate to the comments that the reviewers made. So the way this relates to you is that's how I'm treating your technical report that you are going to be drafting for experiment number 7. You are going to write a first draft. You're going to hand it to me through the course folder, and I will treat that as if it is a manuscript for publication in, let's call it, the Journal of Barty Science. I'll go ahead, I'll read through it, I will act as a reviewer and write up a list of comments, and then I have a rubric that I am still forming in order to grade your assignment. Once I'm done, I draw up those list of comments, I hand back your first draft, I hand back your rubric that shows you how it was graded, and I hand back the list of comments. You take the list of comments and the draft and you form a second draft addressing each and every comment I made. And then you submit the second draft back to me along with a list of changes that shows my list of the comments I made and what you did in the second draft to address each of those comments and where those changes take place in the second draft. So it's a lot of work, and it takes some time to understand how to write a manuscript like that. And so instead of trying to teach writing like I used to in lecture style, this time around, and for how I've been doing it for the last few years, and it seems to work well, is that for each lab prior to Lab 7, so Lab 7 is the one you write your technical report. So starting from Experiment 2 up to Experiment 6, you guys are going to write what would be a section of a full-fledged technical report. So for example, for Experiment 2, you will write a method section. So Experiment 3, you write a results section. So it will be the results section of what would be a full-fledged lab report for experiment number 3. So that means for each experiment, you have to hand in an experiment memo and also a writing intensive exercise as indicated in the syllabus here. Now, each of those assignments are group efforts, so you guys are going to be broken up into several groups. So that means, for example, for experiment 1, each group has to hand in one experiment memo. For experiment 2, each group has to hand in one experiment memo and one method section. So it's not an individual assignment. The technical report that you will write later in the semester is meant for each individual person to write, but the writing intensive exercises is a group effort, and the grade will be shared among the group. So that's how it works for the first several weeks. Once you're done with experiment 7, you will have 2 weeks to write up your lab report, your experience, and then you'll have to hand it in. And during that time, you will be doing a design experiment that will give you more instruction as to what that design experiment looks like later. So you hand in the first draft. You have 2 weeks to write it. We'll hold a kind of a conference session in order to talk about how to write that and field any questions you might have. Then I'll hand back your technical report. We'll have a writing review on how to write your second draft, and then you'll be given another 2 weeks to draft your second draft, write your second draft of your lab report. And then we will do some sort of introduction to LabVIEW, and then you will hand in also your design experiment at some point. So that is how the semester breaks up. I will go ahead and give you access to the syllabus through the course folder. Now, I want to back up a little bit here and to give you an idea of how your grade breaks up for the semester. So there's several components to how your grade will be determined. First off, before you come into each lab, you will have a questionnaire or an experiment quiz that you'll take. That's to be sure that you read the content of the quiz beforehand. Dr. Ruber will be administering those quizzes. Your experiment memos are worth 30%. Each writing exercise, the total of the writing exercises is 25%. And then your full technical report is worth 35%, where draft 1 is 20% and draft 2 is 15%. So that is how your grade will be broken up. Now, the last thing I want to go over, which will also take about another 10 minutes to go through, is the course website. So there's a link here on the first or second page of your syllabus. If you go ahead and click on that, it should open up should open up a Google site that I created for this class. The first page, the home page of the site, just explains more or less what I just explained to you. And then as you can see on the left-hand side, the major columns here is course assignments and due dates, experiments, the questionnaires, which is something Dr. Ruber will take care of, and then Technical Report Draft 1 and Technical Report Draft 2 are your tutorials on how to write a technical report. So I'm going to go ahead and start with course assignments and due dates. You can see there's two subsections here, one for the main campus and one for the study center. You guys would click on the study center part. That opens up basically the weeks that each assignment is due and how to name the file when you go ahead and submit it to the course folder. So this kind of gives you, this will give you an idea of when those assignments are due for the France section of the lab. Next thing, under experiments, if you click on ESC Nantes, here you'll have each experiment that you're doing, and for each experiment you'll have a handout. So if you click on the button there or click on the link, you should it should bring up the handout for the lab and some hints for the lab. In addition to that, for the experiments that have writing intensive exercises, there are videos, YouTube videos that I've recorded in order to be able to show you the resources that are available on this website that take you through how to write each section of a lab report. So for example, experiment 2, this video will show you how to use the technical report, how to basically draft the method section. So you click on that, and all it does is take you through this whole section of the website that teaches you how to write, or that explains how to write a method section when you're trying to write your first draft of a method section. And then it'll take you through this draft 2, which is basically, I have written my report and now I want to go through my report and edit it in order to make it better. And again, it kind of gives you an idea of the thoughts behind how to edit up something that you've written. Because when you write something for the first time, it's not going to be, it still most likely will need a lot of work. And then what this does is that it helps you kind of learn how to go through it and find edits that you're going to have to make. So the idea is that you write, for example, for Lab 2, you write the method section, and then after you write the method section, you review it, and you will most likely need to make changes to it. So this will kind of help you through that. So the videos are meant to kind of give you an idea of how to use the website's resources in order to draft your section, your lab report section. And then the last thing is forms and documents. These are where you'll find the course syllabus, another copy of it, a template in order to be able to write up your experiment memos, an example of what your experiment memo should look like, as well as your writing intensive assignment templates and an example of what your writing intensive, what a technical report should look like. And then these links, technical report draft 1 evaluation, shows you, gives you the rubric for which your technical report will be evaluated. And the way that I will grade each individual writing assignment is that I will go ahead and take the section of the evaluation that is take that specific section and use that as an evaluation in order to grade the different sections that you'll be handing in. So for example, experiment number 2, you handed a method section. I'll go to technical report draft 1 evaluation, take out the part that's relative to methods and use that to grade your method section, and then so forth and so on. Okay, aside from that, anything else we can go over at a later time. Again, course website, syllabus, go through it, and you should be able to follow this video and get a good idea of how the class goes. If you have any questions, of course, email me. And that concludes this video.